Okay, then you can see that this adrenal
Yes, sir.
gland, you just go through the structure of the adrenal gland. This is composed of, please mute it,
गायर सुना कि नहीं शौक हमारा
kindly mute it,
दूसरे गायर बेकार में सुना कि हमारा কোনো शौक नहीं
please yourself you mute it, kindly. Okay, so this structure if you go through, carefully observe, it is composed of cortex and as well as medulla. Adrenal gland is composed of adrenal cortex and as well as medulla. You can see that this is the outer layer which is called as zona glomerulosa, and this is the middle layer, you can call it as zona fasciculata, and then this is the inner layer, we call it as zona reticularis. So all these three layers combinedly we call it as adrenal cortex. And you can see a middle, a small structure is there, and we call it as adrenal medulla. So finally what I am trying to tell, adrenal gland is divided into two parts, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. Adrenal cortex is composed of three layers, zona glomerulosa, which is outer layer, and the middle layer is called as zona fasciculata, and then inner layer is called as zona reticularis, and whereas the inner portion is adrenal medulla. Got the clarity? Now we are going to discuss only about adrenal cortex. We are not going to discuss about adrenal medulla. Right now in this today's class, we are going to discuss only about these three layers. Okay, so let us go forward. Now you just go through the second slide. So already in second part of endocrines, we discussed about what is that, hypothalamus and as well as pituitary gland connection. This is hypothalamus, and this portion is called as, what is that, the pituitary gland. And you can see that the pituitary gland is divided into two parts. This is called posterior pituitary, and this portion is called as anterior pituitary. And this one, you just observe that this is one nucleus is there. This is one particular neuron, that is a nucleus, and this nucleus is called as paraventricular nucleus. So this nucleus is called paraventricular nucleus. From this nucleus, two secretions are coming into the anterior pituitary. You can observe that two are in different colors. One is this color, rose color or pink color, and another one is blue color. So two secretions are coming into the anterior pituitary. So one is, so we are not going to discuss about this secretion. We will discuss in thyroid gland, and we are concentrating only about this particular secretion. I repeat again, this is the hypothalamus. So in hypothalamus, one nucleus is there called as paraventricular nucleus. So this paraventricular nucleus, it is producing one secretion. What is that secretion? The secretion is called as corticotropic releasing hormone. It is called as corticotropin releasing hormone. And this hormone is released into the blood circulation, and this hormone will enter into the anterior pituitary. In anterior pituitary, one particular cell is there called as corticotrope. So I repeat again, in anterior pituitary, one particular cells are there, group of cells are there, which are called as corticotrope. So this CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone, from the paraventricular nucleus, it will come down and it will bind to the cells called corticotrope cells. Once this CRH binds to corticotrope cells, then the corticotrope cells, it will start to release one hormone called as ACTH. So this ACTH means adrenocorticotropic hormone. So this corticotrope cells, it will release one hormone called as ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and it will enter into the blood circulation. I repeat again. So this is hypothalamus, this is pituitary gland, this is posterior pituitary, this one is anterior pituitary. From the hypothalamus, from the paraventricular nucleus, one secretion will be released called as corticotropic releasing hormone. It will come and bind to a group of cells called as corticotrope. After binding to this corticotrope cells will release one hormone called as ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay. So once this adrenocorticotropic hormone is released, it will enter into blood circulation. It starts to travel in the blood circulation. Then where it will go? So now you come back to the first slide. So this ACTH, which is released into the blood circulation, it will come and bind to this adrenal cortex. So adrenal cortex composed of how many layers? Outer layer zona glomerulosa, middle layer is zona fasciculata, and inner layer is zona reticularis. So the ACTH will come and bind to zona glomerulosa and zona fasciculata and zona reticularis. So all three are different layers. All three are concerned with different hormones. So the ACTH will bind to outer layer, middle layer, and as well as inner layer. When I say that ACTH will bind to these three layers, means definitely these layers will contain the receptors for ACTH. Now again you come back here. So just now I told that ACTH is released. Now I told that CRH is released from the hypothalamus. You can observe that CRH doesn't have any hormonal function. Its duty is, even though it is a hormone, it will come and bind to another one type of cell called as corticotrope, and then it will stimulate the release of ACTH. That means, so body point of view, it doesn't have any function. This hormone will activate another gland to produce another hormone. So that's why again you see ACTH, it doesn't have any function, specific function on the body. It will be released into the blood circulation. It will come and bind to zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and as well as zona reticularis. So these two hormones, that means CRH or ACTH, technically speaking, they are actually doesn't have any hormonal action. They act on other gland to produce the secretion. So the hormones which doesn't have any specific action, so not producing any body action, such hormones are called as tropical hormones. So CRH and as well as ACTH, both are called as tropical hormones because they don't have specific function on the body. They activate other hormones in the body. So which hormone is activating? It is activating the hormones which are present in the adrenal cortex. Now let us discuss zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis separately. Now come to third slide. Yeah, let us go through this one. Now you just observe this slide. Here I have written something, adrenal gland and corticosteroids. The hormones which are produced by adrenal cortex, all the hormones which are produced by the adrenal cortex are called as corticosteroids. They are called as corticosteroids. So the group of hormones produced by zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis are called as corticosteroids. That means they produce steroidal hormone. Then which hormone is produced by which layer? You just observe zona glomerulosa, the outer layer, it will produce mineralocorticoids. And then zona fasciculata, that is the middle layer, it will produce glucocorticoids. And then the inner layer, zona reticularis, it will produce androgens or sex hormones. So what you have to understand, zona glomerulosa produces mineralocorticoids, zona fasciculata, it produces glucocorticoids, and that is zona reticularis, it will produce androgens. By the name itself, and what is that? Adrenal medulla, it will produce catecholamines. So now the point is, what is this catecholamines? So you heard about what you can say, adrenaline and as well as non-adrenaline. Already we discussed in the autonomic nervous system. You heard about sympathetic nervous system. It is concerned with adrenergic or adrenaline or non-adrenaline. Adrenaline and non-adrenaline are produced by the adrenal medulla. That is adrenaline and non-adrenaline combinedly, they are called as catecholamines. So these are actually neurogenic in nature. This middle layer, that means the inside of adrenal medulla, it is composed of nervous tissue. Whereas the outside three layers are composed of epithelium. So what you have to understand, adrenal gland, inside of the adrenal gland is composed of nervous tissue, and outside of the adrenal gland, that is adrenal cortex, it is composed of epithelium. So that means it is composed of two types of tissue. One is epithelial type of tissue, that is cuboidal epithelium or columnar epithelium, and inside of the adrenal medulla, it is composed of which one? Nervous tissue. So inside of the adrenal gland produces adrenal medulla. The outside of the adrenal gland produces corticosteroids. Zona glomerulosa, it produces mineralocorticoids. Zona fasciculata, it produces glucocorticoids, and zona reticularis produces androgens. Now, these three, if you go through the names, mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids and as well as androgens, by seeing the names, you can understand that mineralocorticoids are concerned with the mineral metabolism, and glucocorticoids are concerned with the glucose metabolism, and third one, androgens are sex hormones. That means the concentration of the minerals are controlled by the mineralocorticoids, and the concentration of glucose in the body are controlled by the glucocorticoids, and androgens are sex hormones. But what you have to understand, even though we say that androgen sex hormones are produced by the adrenal cortex, but weak hormones, they are weak sex hormones. So it's not that it doesn't have that much significance in our sexual characters, only it is concerned with the secondary sexual characters. Let us discuss one by one mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and as well as androgen. First, let us concentrate on mineralocorticoids. Come to the third slide. 1 second. Now you go through here. The first one, mineralocorticoids. So many mineralocorticoids are there. The most important mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. Of course, so many different types of mineralocorticoids are there, but we have a clarity regarding one particular hormone of the mineralocorticoids, that is called as aldosterone. Remaining mineralocorticoids are less significant in nature. This is the most important one. That's why we concentrate on aldosterone. So what we say, it promotes the reabsorption of water and as well as sodium. So you heard about which one? Nephron. Nephron is concerned with nephron. Can you unmute? Can you unmute and tell me whether you are able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. So here mineralocorticoids or aldosterone. You heard about nephron. In nephron, actually the blood will get filtered in the nephron, and then the substances which are required for the body and substances which are not required for the body, both will get filtered. And then the substances which are required for the body are reabsorbed into the body. For example, water and sodium. So aldosterone, it is concerned with the reabsorption of water and as well as sodium. So once the water and the sodium will get reabsorbed, then automatically the blood pressure will increase. Now the question is how it will increase, how it will promote the reabsorption of water and sodium. Let us go through another slide. You will get the clarity here. You just go through this particular slide. You concentrate on this particular slide. When you just observe this one, this particular first column, when there is a decreased sodium level in the body, that means when our sodium level is very low. And second one is when our blood pressure is very low, or when our blood volume is very low due to dehydration. Then automatically what will happen, you just observe again and once again, when our blood sodium level is very low, and when our blood pressure is very low, and when our blood volume is very low, and automatically kidney will start to produce one particular protein or hormone that is called as renin. So once the renin is released in the kidney, that renin will enter into the blood circulation. So once it enters into the blood circulation, it reaches the liver, where in the liver is continuously, it is producing one particular protein that is called as Angiotensinogen. This is the Angiotensinogen. So continuously it will be producing one particular protein called as Angiotensinogen. And what renin will do, it will convert this Angiotensinogen into Angiotensin 1. I repeat again, when our blood pressure is low, blood volume is low, and sodium level is low, kidney will produce one particular protein called as renin. And this renin, what it will do, it will convert Angiotensinogen to Angiotensin 1. So from where this Angiotensinogen we are getting means kidney is producing this Angiotensinogen regularly. So this Angiotensinogen gets converted into Angiotensin 1 in the presence of an enzyme called as renin, which is produced in the kidney. Now this Angiotensin 1, it will enter into the blood circulation, and then it will travel and it reaches the lungs. In the lungs, one enzyme is there called as angiotensin converting enzyme, that is called as ACE, ACE. So that enzyme called ACE is produced by the lungs. And that enzyme, what it will do, it will convert this Angiotensin 1 into Angiotensin 2. So once the Angiotensin 2 is formed, what this Angiotensin 2 will do, it will be released into the blood circulation. It enters into the blood, and then it will directly go to the adrenal cortex. So it reaches the adrenal cortex which is present on the surface of the kidney, that is adrenal gland. Especially it will reaches the adrenal cortex. Now you come back to first diagram. You can see this is the adrenal cortex. What this one will do, which one? Angiotensin 2, it will come and attach to zona glomerulosa. The outside one layer is there, no? Outside layer of the adrenal gland. So that Angiotensin 2, it will come and attach to zona glomerulosa. So zona glomerulosa, what it will do means, it will start to produce one hormone called as mineralocorticoid, that is nothing but aldosterone. So I repeat again. So angiotensin 2, it will come and attach to which one? Zona glomerulosa. And zona glomerulosa, it will start to produce one particular hormone called as aldosterone. That is nothing but one example for mineralocorticoid. Now you just observe here, aldosterone is released now. So from where the aldosterone is released? Aldosterone is released by the zona glomerulosa. So what aldosterone will do? It will increase the tubular reabsorption of sodium and water. So it promotes the reabsorption of sodium and water. And by increasing the reabsorption of sodium and water, it also promotes the excretion of potassium and as well as phosphate. Once the reabsorption of sodium and water will take place, automatically the sodium level in the body will increase. Once the sodium level in the body increases, obviously, along with the sodium, water also will get reabsorbed. So here sodium also getting reabsorbed, water also getting reabsorbed. What will happen? The blood volume also increases because water is reabsorbed. And because sodium is reabsorbed, blood pressure also will increase. So we started with what happened here, decreased blood pressure and decreased blood volume. So now what you are able to see, increased blood volume and as well as increased blood pressure. So what actually you have to understand, when our blood pressure is low due to some reason, stress factors or something, because continuously the people will be under stress, automatically our blood pressure will become low and as well as our blood volume also will become low. So whenever such type of situation exists, then body will start to produce the aldosterone. So the zona glomerulosa will release the aldosterone, and that aldosterone will reabsorb the sodium and it will reabsorb the water, and thereby our blood volume and as well as the blood pressure will increase. Now actually you should get one doubt. That means, what is the condition in the blood pressure patient, the person who is suffering from hypertension? That means it is understood that in hypertension patient, they don't want any strong reason for increase of the blood pressure. So constantly their blood pressure will be very high in the hypertension patient, and as well as high blood pressure patient, their blood pressure will be very high. Now I think you can understand that the reason for high blood pressure is hyperactivity of this aldosterone. That means continuously, even though necessity is not there, continuously the aldosterone will be released into the blood, and this aldosterone, what it will do, it will increase the water reabsorption, it will increase the sodium reabsorption. So thereby the blood pressure will be constantly, it will be very high. So this is the status. So that means we have to find out why this aldosterone is hyperactive in high blood pressure patient. But the thing is, present day we are not bothered about why aldosterone is increased in the body. We just give some medication to decrease the activity of aldosterone. Is it clear or not? So once the regular classes starts, then I can explain you in the board that so under what condition the aldosterone will be activated. Or otherwise, I'm going to prepare one video about this one. I will post in the YouTube. So there you will get the clarity under what condition the abnormally why aldosterone will be increased. So this is the role of aldosterone. I think you got the clarity. Now you go back to third slide. So now I think you got the clarity that to promote the reabsorption of water and sodium. This is the functions of aldosterone, and also promotes the reabsorption of bicarbonates. You will get a very good clarity in the next chapter that we are going to discuss, that is excretory system. That time you will get a clarity that in which part of the nephron it will promote the reabsorption of water and sodium, and which part of the nephron it will promote the reabsorption of bicarbonates. You will get full clarity about that one. Right now in hormone chapter, just if you write the functions, that is sufficient. Of course, when we say that the water and the sodium is reabsorbed, it is understood that the potassium and as well as phosphates will get excreted. It is a compensatory mechanism. That means when you want to take back something, you have to give it back something. So when you are trying to take back the water and sodium, then obviously the potassium and as well as phosphate will be lost from the body. And you have to remember that potassium and phosphate both are actually very important, very much required for our body. Of course, water and sodium also required, but the thing is you have to understand that we are reabsorbing the water and sodium with the cost of potassium and phosphate. That means we are gaining water, sodium, we are losing potassium and phosphate. Then if you ask the question that, sir, is it that potassium and phosphate loss, is it okay? Definitely it is not okay. That means you have to understand that when the person is consuming the drugs which promotes the reabsorption of water and sodium, for example, the person who is suffering from hypertension, when he consumes tablets which to minimize the blood pressure, then it is understood that the person will gain water and sodium, but the thing is, what I can say, the loss of potassium and phosphate will be there in the blood pressure patient. Then when you consume the tablet, then automatically it is understood that water and sodium will be lost. So is it okay? That is also not okay. That means our body will have an equilibrium between water and sodium and potassium and phosphate. Blood pressure means the equilibrium between water and sodium and equilibrium between potassium and phosphate will be lost. So there is no equilibrium. The imbalance will be existing between these two, and as well as these two. So this imbalance is result in blood pressure. So when water and sodium is more in our body, then high blood pressure. Then water and sodium is less in our body, that is hypotension. So either we will have, what I can say, either the hypertension will be there or hypotension will be there when there is an imbalance. When perfect balance is maintained, we never suffer from hypertension and we never suffer from hypotension. When these two become imbalanced, the equilibrium is lost, and automatically either we will suffer from hypertension or hypotension. And if you have a doubt question that which one is more dangerous, that is like water and that is hypertension or hypotension, of course hypotension is more deadlier when compared to hypertension. Hypertension never kills, but definitely hypotension will kill. Then next one is increase the conversion of sodium and water. Increase the conservation of sodium and water increases the blood pressure. It is understood because water and sodium is reabsorbed means obviously the blood pressure will increase. So next, go back to another hormone, that is glucocorticoids. This is a very interesting hormone, but I don't know, surprisingly, it is not that much important examination point of view in human anatomy and physiology. Whereas once you go to next semester, higher semester, like you're going to study in pharmacology, this topic is extremely important. You heard about autoimmunity disorder, and apart from that, you heard about organ transplantation. So when you study about organ transplantation or blood transfusion, so the role of glucocorticoids are extremely important. So for example, anatomy and physiology point of view, just we will discuss about the functions of glucocorticoids. But therapy point of view, treatment point of view, the use of glucocorticoids is entirely different. So I don't know, surprisingly, the textbook will not concentrate much about that concept. Let us discuss about glucocorticoids. Promotes gluconeogenesis. Already in biochemistry, you might have studied about gluconeogenesis, synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, that is protein and as well as lipid. So when you are fasting or prolonged fasting is there, automatically body will start to synthesize the glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. So this is gluconeogenesis is promoted by glucocorticoids. So the enzymes required for this process, this particular concept is promoted by the glucocorticoids. Next one, glycogenesis, synthesis of glycogen from glucose. So this is promoted by the glucocorticoids. So whatever the glucose is present, and it promotes the synthesis of glycogen in the glucose. This also you might have studied in the biochemistry. Then stimulates the protein breakdown. So you just to go through the point. It looks like a very simple point, but actually it is not that much simple to understand. We say that it will stimulate the protein breakdown. When protein starts to break down, the resultant product is amino acid. Understand? Oh my God. Okay, so let me complete this point. When the protein starts to break down, then automatically what will happen? The product is amino acid. As you know that the protein is a chain of amino acid. So amino acid will be released into the blood circulation. So this amino acid, what it will happen? It will reach the liver. It will all the amino acid, once it starts to break down, it will reach the liver, and then liver, it will start to process those particular amino acid. Similarly, fat also, for example, you can see that it stimulates absorption of lipids and induces lipolysis. That means breakdown of lipid. Even lipid also will break down into glycerol and as well as fatty acid. So much amount of amino acid, so much amount of fatty acid will be available in the blood, and then this fatty acid will enter into the liver. So try to understand this concept carefully. So much amount of fatty acid enters into the liver. Then liver, what it will do? It will convert this particular fatty acid molecules into, what is that? Acetyl-CoA. You heard about acetyl-CoA. It converts into acetyl-CoA. And that acetyl-CoA will be utilized for the energy production. You heard about ATP production. You heard about citric acid cycle. Now the question is whether this liver is capable of handling so much amount of fatty acid. If limited amount of fatty acid, if it reaches the liver, then it can be handled by the which one? Liver. That fatty acid can be handled by liver. When excess amount of this fatty acid reaches the liver, liver cannot handle that much amount of fatty acid. Then what happens? So excess amount of fatty acids when it reaches the liver, when liver cannot handle, that condition is called as fatty liver. So that means when glucocorticoids are acting too much, that means excess production of glucocorticoids are there. More amount of fatty acids are present in the blood, and those fatty acids will cause the fatty liver. So that is probably is because of glucocorticoids. Then acts as an anti-inflammatory by inhibiting the migration of WBC to inflammatory site and by inhibiting the prostaglandin. So this is a very simple and as well as simple concept, but the thing is it is more complicated to understand. For example, when there is a pain, when there is an injury, then automatically the site of injury, it will produce prostaglandin, which causes the pain. And to repair that particular injury, WBC will come to that particular area, the site of injury, and it starts to promote the healing. What this glucocorticoids will do, it will not allow the WBC to reach the site of injury, and it will not allow the production of prostaglandin. Prostaglandin produces pain, and WBC will promote the repair. So this glucocorticoids will not allow the prostaglandin. When prostaglandin is not allowed at the site of injury, then automatically pain will not be there. Inflammation will not be there. When WBC is not allowed to the site of injury, then automatically repair will not be there. So when glucocorticoids are dominating in our body, then it is understood that prostaglandin, that means pain and inflammation will not be there, and as well as WBC cannot act at the site of injury. That means it is like acting against immunity. That means it suppresses the immunity. So that's why we call it as exert immunosuppressive effect. Actually, if you observe this point, it looks disadvantage. Huge disadvantage is there regarding glucocorticoids because it is suppressing the immunity. The only advantage of this particular point is during which one? Surgery. Any person any person undergone organ transplantation, in such cases, to suppress the immunity, so we can use the glucocorticoids. So therapy point of view, glucocorticoids can be used in the organ transplantation. Apart from that, we have a huge disadvantage with the glucocorticoids because it will not allow the prostaglandins to produce the pain, and it will not allow the WBC to produce to repair that particular site of injury. Now you do one thing, you unmute yourself, everybody. Unmute yourself fast. Now you are in mute mode, you unmute yourself fast.
Thank you.
Now you do one thing, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. You can ask the doubts. If any doubts are there, you can ask.
So, what is the need of glucocorticoids to exert immunosuppressive effect?
Pardon, madam? One
What is the
second.
need for glucocorticoids to exert this immunosuppressive effect?
No, madam. It's not the need of glucocorticoids to suppress the immunity. For example, for example, as I told you that immunity, what we are talking, actually, it is a double-edged sword. It is good and as well as it is bad also. For example, you are training in our body, these particular immune cells are trained to kill the foreign substances. Chances are there that sometimes the immune cells will hyperact and it may target our own body. So glucocorticoids, actually, it will control those particular cells which try to act smart. But when excess amount of glucocorticoids are there, the problem is it will not allow the immune cells to perform the function. That means we have an advantage and we have a disadvantage with this particular glucocorticoids. If the immune cells are hyperactive, then these glucocorticoids are really good. When it is acting normally, when glucocorticoids are dominating, then it becomes a disadvantage. So those people who are suffering from loss of immunity, probably the most important reason is glucocorticoids. Yes, any doubt?
Sir, as per you mentioned, glucocorticoids help in inhibiting the prostaglandins.
Yes.
And they will have a negative impact on like they will need prostaglandins. Major role is to indicate the intensity of the pain, right, sir?
Yes, intensity of injury.
Yes, sir. How they will manipulate this situation?
Which one? Glucocorticoids. So for example, if site of injury is there, for example, if you take one particular site of injury, surrounding that particular injury, the glucocorticoids will start to get accumulated, and it will not allow this particular, what is that, prostaglandin or WBC to reach the site of injury. Once this prostaglandin and WBC are unable to reach the site of injury, then we cannot experience the pain and we cannot repair that particular area. That particular area cannot be repaired. This will be an advantage only during organ transplantation. Apart from organ transplantation, this point is not an advantage. For organ transplantation, definitely it is an advantage. Why? Because, so you heard about gross acceptance and gross rejection. That means when we undergo the organ transplantation, body may accept it, body may reject it. So if you, for example, a person undergone organ transplantation, if you administer this glucocorticoids, so temporary period of time, it will not allow the immune cells to target the new organ. Right? Apart from that, there is no advantage.
Sir, glucocorticoid supplements are tagoboda, sir?
No. You can't consume glucocorticoid supplements. When they will give, I will tell you. For example, you heard about severe allergy. Heard about allergy? Abnormal allergy will be there. Life-threatening allergy will be there. In such cases, we will give this glucocorticoids, but only in certain concentration. One example I will tell you. Recent one example. One person, what I can say, suffered from allergy, and doctor has prescribed some glucocorticoids, excessive doses. After consuming this glucocorticoids, the person's blood glucose level, it reached nearly 325 grams per deciliter. That means, even for simple problem, if you consume this glucocorticoids, your glucose level will shoot up like anything. It is, that means indirectly the excess amount of glucocorticoids is there, then it is understood that you are diabetic. It's simple, because it increases the blood glucose level in the body. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Any other? Any questions?
Sir,
Tell me.
sir,
Tell me, madam.
sir, if it is suppressing the immunity, then it will be harmful, right, sir?
Yes, definitely. Definitely, it is harmful, but it is inevitable, because when we go for organ transplantation, it is inevitable that we have to suppress the immunity. There is no other chance. Any person undergoing the organ transplantation, we have to suppress the immunity. Is it clear? Anyhow, I will give a better clarity in the next video. Is it clear? Or next, when we meet, that time we will discuss about this one. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Shall I leave? Shall I wind up?
Yes, sir.
It's only less than 1 minute is there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
You can ask the questions in the WhatsApp also to me. You can communicate to me. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Okay.